Before light ever existed, there was only silence, a silence so deep that even eternity seemed to listen. But where was God before he said, "Let there be light"? Was he somewhere or everywhere? And what happened in that immeasurable pause before time took its first breath? These are questions that have puzzled prophets, theologians, and scientists alike. Some imagine God waiting in infinite stillness. Others wonder if the universe itself rests within him. But what if the truth is far more mysterious? That before creation began, creation already lived in his mind. That before the beginning was already known. You're about to see Genesis as you've never seen it before, not just as history but as revelation. We'll explore what existed before existence, what the scriptures call the heaven of heavens, and how the Eternal stepped into the very timeline he created. This isn't just another theory, it's a journey to the edge of eternity, and maybe a glimpse of where your own story truly began. Because if we misunderstand where God was before creation, we risk misunderstanding who he is now. And that could change everything about how we see faith, time, and ourselves. But to uncover where God was before the first dawn, we must travel to the place where time was still sleeping and eternity was wide awake. If you love discovering the hidden mysteries of the scriptures, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next revelations. Thank you for being here. Let's begin. Before the first light ever pierced the darkness, there was no ticking clock, no sunrise, no passing of moments, only God. The scriptures say, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." Psalm 92. Time itself slept in his hands. There was no before or after, only the eternal I am. Try to imagine existence without time. Impossible, isn't it? Yet for the Creator, eternity is not endless time. It's his dwelling place. He stands outside the flow of minutes and hours, watching them as an artist gazes at his masterpiece. If God existed before time, then he also designed it. Genesis 1:1 declares, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But that beginning wasn't a date. It was an act. The instant God spoke, time was born. From that moment, every sunrise, every heartbeat, every prophecy began to move toward fulfillment. Isn't it remarkable? While humanity measures life in years, God measures it in purpose. He isn't waiting on the clock waits on him. And yet, that eternal God looks at our brief lives with infinite care. He sees your entire story, the laughter, the tears, the prayers whispered in the dark. Long before you were formed, he had already written every chapter. All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. Psalm 139:16. Think about that. Before the concept of time existed, your destiny was already known in heaven. Could anything be more comforting? But here lies a divine paradox. If God stands outside of time, how does he interact with us within it? Every answered prayer, every prophetic sign, every divine delay, all are perfectly timed by the one who authored time itself. When we think he's late, he's actually weaving eternity into our temporary world. The eternal moves slowly only to those trapped by impatience. Have you ever wondered if the silence you feel is not absence but preparation? Before creation's first dawn, the Eternal was not alone. He was complete within himself. Yet, love longs to create. Out of that infinite fullness, he imagined galaxies, angels, and humankind. Time would become the stage upon which his glory unfolds. But if time was born through him, what existed before his dwelling appeared, to discover that we must cross the unseen threshold and enter the invisible kingdom, the dwelling place of God. Before the universe took form, before the angels lifted their first song, there existed a realm not made of matter, but of majesty. The scriptures call it the heaven of heavens, 1 Kings 8:27, a domain beyond the visible heavens, where the presence of God fills everything without boundary or shadow. In that place, there is no night, because the Lord himself is light, 1 John 1:5. Imagine it, no sun, no moon, no stars, yet brilliance everywhere. The air itself would shimmer with holiness. This realm is not distant in miles, but in nature. It cannot be seen with telescopes or touched with hands. It can only be perceived by spirit. God is spirit, Jesus said in John 4:24, and therefore his dwelling cannot decay or be measured. The prophets described glimpses of this kingdom. Ezekiel saw a throne of sapphire. Isaiah beheld the Lord high and exalted, with seraphim crying, "Holy, holy, holy." What they saw were reflections of a reality so radiant that even angels shielded their faces. From that eternal throne, the word of God went forth. Every thought of creation began here, in a sanctuary not built by hands. And when the Almighty spoke, "Let there be," the invisible became visible. Have you ever realized that everything we see today once existed only as divine intention? The galaxies, the oceans, the beating heart inside you, all were once whispers in the mind of God. The invisible kingdom is where those whispers turn into worlds. But if heaven was already filled with his glory, why create anything at all? Perhaps because love demands expression. Love cannot remain silent. It creates, it gives, it breathes life into dust. The Book of Wisdom says that God made all things so that they might exist, and that his Spirit fills all living things. Wisdom 1:13-14. The Creator did not build the cosmos to find himself. He built it to share himself. Every sunrise is an echo of that generosity. And yet there's more. The song of creation, before it was ever heard, began as a thought, a rhythm pulsing in eternity. Before stars burned or rivers flowed, the divine mind was composing the melody of existence. To grasp where God was, we must follow that melody back to its source, to the moment when the thought of God became the word of creation. Before the first atom existed, there was a thought, not human, but divine. John 1:1 reveals it clearly. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That word, Logos, was the expression of God's infinite mind. Every galaxy, every law of nature, every heartbeat was conceived within that perfect intelligence. Nothing appeared by chance. Everything began with intention. Can you imagine the silence before the first word was spoken? The pause before eternity echoed with light. The divine mind did not need blueprints or instruments. His thoughts themselves contained creation. When he said, "Let there be light," it was not a command shouted into darkness. It was revelation. The light had always existed in him. Now it was unveiled. The prophets describe creation as a divine symphony, each word forming a note, each element a vibration of his will. The scriptures declare, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made." Psalm 33:6. Every star that shines tonight is a lyric of that eternal song. Think of it this way: before an artist paints, he imagines. Before a builder constructs, he dreams. The Creator's imagination, however, does not remain abstract. His thoughts become reality. That's why faith is called the substance of things hoped for, Hebrews 11:1. It mirrors the divine process itself, thought becoming word, word becoming form. What if our own prayers are tiny reflections of that original creative act, words that carry fragments of eternity, and as the angels watched, they saw the invisible unfold into splendor. From the mind of God came dimensions, from his word came order, and from his spirit came life. The ancient texts say that wisdom stood beside him, rejoicing in his creation. Proverbs 8:30. Picture that moment, the laughter of the divine as the first light danced across the newborn cosmos. Creation was not mechanical, it was joyful, alive, and full of purpose. Yet the greatest mystery remains. If all things came from his thought, where was he when thought first began? Was there a place before places, a realm so filled with his presence that even nothingness could not escape him? To uncover that answer, we must travel further back, beyond light itself, into the sacred paradox of the nothing that was full of God. Before there was something, there was nothing. But this nothing was not empty. It was overflowing with God himself. The human mind pictures darkness and void, yet the scriptures whisper another truth. The earth was formless and empty, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Genesis 1:2. Even when there was no matter, the Spirit moved. What we call nothingness was simply space not yet awakened, a silence pregnant with the presence of the eternal. This paradox defies every human rule. We think of nothing as absence, but to God, absence does not exist. He fills every realm, even those that have not yet come to be. As Isaiah declared, "Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool." Isaiah 66:1. Before either existed, he was already their essence. The divine mystery is that creation did not begin with a spark from outside him. It was his own presence expanding, his light unfolding into form. The universe is not distant from God, it is suspended within him. Scientists search for a beginning point, a singularity. But long before equations or theories, the prophets already knew God is the beginning. He is not part of creation's timeline. Creation is part of his being. Imagine an ocean so vast that even eternity cannot find its shore. That is God. Every atom, every galaxy, every breath you take still floats within that ocean. The nothing that was before time was simply a canvas awaiting his first stroke, and that is why no telescope can find him and no laboratory can measure him. He's not hidden in the stars. The stars are hidden in him. The Apostle Paul wrote, "In him we live and move and have our being." Acts 17:28. The same Spirit that hovered over the void now hovers over our hearts, ready to create light where darkness once ruled. Have you ever felt that sacred stillness before a breakthrough? That quiet moment when heaven seems to hold its breath? That is the echo of the ancient nothingness, waiting again for his word. Yet the wonder grows deeper still. The Eternal, who filled all things and needed nothing, would one day step into his own creation. Time, once sleeping in his hands, would open its eyes, and God himself would enter it. But how could the infinite walk within the limits of hours and years? The answer lies in the moment when the Eternal entered time. From the throne of eternity, the one who was beyond hours and days chose to step inside them. The word that spoke galaxies into motion became flesh, just as John wrote, "And the word became flesh and dwelt among us." John 1:14. Think about that. Creation's author walking among his own creation. Time itself bent in reverence. The infinite wore limitation, not because he had to, but because love demanded it. For the first time, eternity had a heartbeat. The God who had existed beyond all beginnings entered the narrow corridor of human history. Each moment that passed through Christ's hands became sacred. Every second he breathed was redemption unfolding. The very same voice that once said, "Let there be light," now whispered comfort to the broken, restoring light to human souls. When Jesus walked the earth, heaven touched dust. The Eternal became visible. The invisible kingdom stepped into view. Through his words and miracles, time learned what mercy looked like. The prophets had spoken of this mystery. "Unto us a child is born, and his name shall be called Everlasting Father." Isaiah 9:6. Imagine that, the everlasting dwelling inside infancy, the Creator cradled by his own creation. At the cross, the timeline of humanity met eternity again. The echo of Genesis, "Let there be," became "It is finished." The first word created existence, the last word redeemed it. The eternal, once outside of time, entered it fully, to conquer it. And in his resurrection, time itself bowed. Death's clock stopped ticking in the face of everlasting life. The prophecy of ages was fulfilled. But what does this mean for your future, for the days still unwritten in your book of life? If the eternal entered time once, could he step into your story again? The answer hides in the meeting point between the final breath of time and the first breath of eternity. There, at that threshold, begins the mystery of the end that is also the beginning. Before creation began, God was not searching for a place to exist. He was existence itself. The scriptures declare, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." Revelation 22:13. That means everything starts and ends within him. The universe, vast as it seems, is just a whisper compared to his eternity. Nothing that ever began will remain apart from him because nothing can. And yet this infinite God chose to step into your timeline. The same power that stretched the heavens still shapes your days. The one who spoke galaxies into being also speaks your name in prayer. Can you feel that? Eternity bending close, listening to your heartbeat. You are not a coincidence in the cosmos. You are the reason time was created. Every sunrise is a reminder of the first, "Let there be light." Every breath is proof that creation's flame still burns within you. So the question is no longer where was God before creation? It's where are you within his creation? Are you still standing outside his light, or have you stepped into it? Because the same God who filled the void still fills hearts today. Think about it. If he was there before the beginning and will be there after the end, then what do we truly have to fear? Not time, not death, not distance. All things return to him. And the closer you walk with him, the more eternity begins inside you. Right here, right now. If this message stirred something in your spirit, take a moment to reflect. What does it mean for you that the eternal entered time? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read your thoughts, and if you seek to uncover more of heaven's mysteries hidden within the scriptures, subscribe, like, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next revelation. May the God who was before the beginning walk with you until the end and beyond.